Good evening, everybody. Before we commence our webinar today, I'd like to place few special instructions for a smooth and successful webinar. This presentation that is being displayed here, this shall act as a guide to the participants with audio problems, if any, and others for better understanding. Please pay attention thoroughly and throughout the webinar. I request everybody to please mute your computer or mobile speaker until 5 p.m. or until the question and answer session is announced. Thank you. If there is any disconnection due to technical reasons by me or any of the speakers, we request you to bear with us and we shall connect at the earliest. The question and answer session is from 5 to 5:30 p.m. The panel speaker and I shall address the question based on to whom the question is put to. Should it require to address the question after the webinar, I shall personally call and answer them. Welcome to the webinar series on corporate scandal proofing. Today's webinar is the second part of the two parts webinar series, and the topic is corporate scandal proofing strategies and solutions. While I'm speaking, if there is anybody's audio that is not muted yet, I would request you to kindly mute it so that there is no resound. Okay. Moving on, my name is Kalyan Krishna Bandaru. I'm an advocate practicing before the Supreme Court of India and High Court of Karnataka. I will be the moderator and panel speaker of today's webinar. I'd like to introduce you to webinar's panel speaker and agenda of today's webinar. In the panel today, I have Mr. V.V. Lakshminarayan sir, who is the ex-joint director of the Central Bureau of Investigation. Followed by me, I'll be the second panel speakers for today's webinar. The agenda of today's webinar, that is part 2, is corporate scandal proofing strategies and solutions, which is divided into 4 parts or 4 stages rather. Stage 1, understanding corporate and strategizing scandal proofing. This would be addressed by Mr. V.V. Lakshminarayan sir. Stage 2, risk strategy and risk audit. This shall be addressed by me. Stage 3, assessment, research, intelligence and investigations. This shall be addressed by Mr. Lakshminarayan sir. Stage 4, treating, troubleshooting and dispute resolution. This shall be addressed by me. So let's begin with our agenda. Before I begin with the introduction to corporate scandal proofing and corporate scandal proofing strategies and solutions, I'd like to summarize the previous webinar that was held on 18th of September. The first part of the webinar of scandal proofing solutions, we have discussed on 4 topics. That is topic number 1, rise and impact of corporate scandals and risks. This was addressed by one senior advocate, Mr. S.M. Chandrasekhar of Supreme Court. Then the next part was major reasons of corporate scandals and failures, the internal factors. This was addressed by Lakshminarayan sir. Reasons for corporates paying heavy prices, the external factors. This was addressed by me. And the need for corporates to scandal-proof companies. This was again addressed by Lakshminarayan sir. Lakshminarayan sir gave a detailed presentation on various scandals and most specifically the scam of Satyam, and he gave a live demonstration as how the scam took place, all that. And we'll continue discussing on that today as well. And in the previous webinar, it was concluded that the second part of the webinar shall be uh, discussed, that is introduction to corporate scandal proofing strategies and solutions. That's where we are commencing now. As we discussed earlier, this webinar part 2, it has 4 parts: stage 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'd like to take you through stage 1. So before I take you through stage 1, I'd like to introduce you to the corporate scandal proofing strategies and solutions, how it is done. I'd like to stop sharing this presentation now here, and I'll bring in a new presentation. Please bear with me. I'm sharing with you a particular presentation. You can also view the same if you're on a laptop. I've shared the link on the chat box. You can click the same link. So I'll be taking you through the presentation here. Now, the corporate scandal proofing process that we have developed has 4 parts, as I discussed earlier, which is understanding the corporate and strategizing the scandal proofing. Second part, risk strategy and risk audit. Third, assessment, research, intelligence and investigations. Fourth, treating, troubleshooting and dispute resolution. Before we begin with, I'd like to take you through a particular point or explain a particular point or the difference between risk management and scandal proofing. So normally, what we think of risk management is something to manage or handle any risk-related query or a risk-related process of a particular business operation. So risk management is seen in few companies in India being adopted by you can say top corporates by way of risk audit procedures or so. Whereas scandal proofing is completely different. You can say there are very few, 0.01 or hardly say 4 or 5 or the major MNCs in India who go for scandal proofing solutions. Now we'll have to establish the key difference between risk management and scandal proofing before we understand what corporate scandal proofing services. So basically, a risk is something that is that is due to ignorance in a company. Okay, we can say that, and a scandal is because of a deliberate attempt. We can say. Okay, so if ignorance of any compliance, okay, can lead to a particular risk in a company. However, if a scandal has to happen, there has to be a mind that is deliberately working for that. Okay. Now, the reason I have established this difference is today, most of the corporates, they are equipped with best infrastructure, best human resources, okay, best knowledge. They come with good qualifications. Despite of it, there's huge element of ignorance at every stage. They think, the top people, they think, you hire the best talent, they'll take care of things for you. You hire the best lawyers or chartered accountants, they do things, for the company. That's not how it is. I'll take you through a particular a section of Indian Companies Act. Okay, let me see how many of you know this, okay, or serious of this, or have implemented this. Once you know this, then you'll understand the difference between risk and scandal and how to protect your company. Compliance is commonly ignored by majority corporates. The first one, according to Indian Companies Act, Section 134, which reads as financial statement, board's report, etc. The subsection 3 of Section 134 of Indian Companies Act reads as, there shall be attached to statements laid before a company in a general meeting a report by its board of directors which shall include subsection N of subsection 3, which reads as a statement indicating development and implementation of a risk management policy for the company, including identification therein of elements of risk, if any, which in the opinion of the board may threaten the existence of the company. And the second, subsection O, the details about the policy developed and implemented by the company on corporate social responsibility initiatives taken during the year. Okay, I'll read this out once again for you. The subsection N says, a statement indicating development and implementation of a risk management policy for the company, including identification therein of element of risks. That means you should have filed a statement about a particular risk management policy that you have implemented, and you should have implemented a risk strategy which can identify therein any elements of risks. This, how many companies do literally implement? Okay, there's maybe a few top corporates, they do implement, but majority of them who fall under the transaction below 200 crores or 100 crores, okay, they do not, they overlook this. Somebody who are about doing transactions of 500 crores and above, they kind of take this seriously. This is required for every startup too. It is not just required by any company by stake or by profit or by transaction. This is a mandatory requirement by every company, but most of the companies, they overlook this. Second, according to the sexual harassment of women at workplace, so this is another compliance that is commonly ignored by corporates. What it means is section 4 of this particular act, it says as constitution of internal complaints committee. Every company has to constitute an internal complaints committee where every employer of a workplace shall, by an order in writing, constitute a committee to be known as the internal complaints committee. So this shall have a woman member or majority women being the members and who will govern this committee. I've given just 2 examples of compliances and how corporates tend to ignore. Okay, that is how they get into risks. So I'd like to refer again the point of risk management. Okay, let me bring back the previous presentation I was trying to. Now, the difference between risk management and scandal proofing. So the compliances I've just referred fall under the category of risk management. Okay, risk compliance management. How to manage risks, we'll take you through it. So this is the key difference between risk management and scandal proofing. So scandals are something that are really invited, okay, deliberately done. Risks are, it could be majoritarily due to ignorance, I would say. Now, this being the introduction of it, okay, I'd like to say we have developed these solutions for the first time in India, aiming at the prevention of risks and scandals, and most importantly, preventing from the scanner of, say, CBI or Enforcement Directorate or the Serious Fraud Investigation Offices, and aiming at preventing, investigating, and troubleshooting money laundering activities, white-collar crimes, insider trading, corporate frauds, and others. Now, we'll quickly move on with stage 1. Stage 1 is understanding corporate and strategizing scandal proofing. This shall be addressed by Lakshminarayan sir. So I pass this over to Lakshminarayan sir from here.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Kalyan Krishna, for that introduction.
Sir.
Yeah, I hope the participants are the same or they have changed this time.
Majority same, sir. There are few additional, okay. I would say.
Okay, yeah. Because I thought, I mean, suddenly instead of jumping into it, I thought we'll just recapitulate what we have mentioned.
Yes, sir. Better you recap it.
Yeah. Am I visible and audible? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So actually, I mean, today is Mahatma Gandhi Jayanti. Before starting, I'll like to pay tributes to that great man and also Lal Bahadur Shastri ji. And I mean, today we are discussing about, I have been hearing about waterproofing, leak proofing, weather proofing, but scandal proofing is one thing. which has of late has come into many of the corporates because of various things that are happening around the world. And also, before I start, I remind you of the 7 dangers to human virtue, as mentioned by Mahatma Ji. Wealth without work, pleasure without conscience, knowledge without character, business without ethics, science without humanity, religion without sacrifice, and politics without principles. So we are stuck at point number 4, business without ethics, that we have been discussing. I think even the last session also we discussed about it. Most of the frauds that happen are because many of the people do it mostly it is for the greed. That's what last time I have explained about the Satyam scandal also, wherein why a very good company, which is almost rated as one of the topmost companies in India, has finally collapsed because of this greed. So a detailed presentation was given, and what forced them to undertake this, and what all the internal controls they have ignored, and how finally they could not control the whole scandal, and how they have to finally confess of having committed so much of fraud with the company. Yeah, we also discussed last time about the common type of scandals that happen in many of the corporates. We discussed about the financial frauds. Financial frauds, mainly manipulations, falsifications, misrepresentations, misapplication of accounting principles, and false and misleading or omitted disclosures. This is one set we have seen last time. Other one is the misappropriation of the assets. So whatever the company assets are there, people tend to misappropriate them. So theft of tangible assets or sales of proprietary information and causing improper payments. So this is another thing we discussed. The third type of scandal, what happens in a company, is the corruption. That means making or receiving improper payments, offering bribes, receiving bribes or kickbacks, aiding and abetting fraud by others. So these are the common types of scandals we discussed last time. And also we have discussed why corporate frauds occur. So first thing, as I mentioned, and as Mahatma Gandhi also said, it is because of the greed. The second one is the lack of transparency. Third one is the poor management information. And then excessively generous performance bonus payments. Then non-independent internal audit department. Lack of clear moral direction from senior management. And then excessively complex organizational structure, which actually avoids the information flow, or working in silos. That is also another reason for this. And then poor accounting controls, and sometimes arrogance, and finally complacency. So these are the factors on which the frauds occur. So whenever you want to scandal proof a company, as a management, you are supposed to take care of all these things. And then if you can prove the company from all these leaks, then the company can become a scandal proof company. So the initiation has to come from the top management. That's why I always say, whenever you want to clean a ladder, you have to start from the top. If you want to clean a ladder, and if you start from the below, and if you want to reach the top, again you will be stepping onto the ladder, and you will be of the senior management is very, very important. So that is one thing we need to learn. Of course, we have seen the greatest financial scandals that have happened across the world. The Polypec company, or the BCCI, MicroStrategy, Enron, WorldCom, AIG, Lehman Brothers, then Madoff we have seen, Autonomy. So many scandals we have seen, and also we have discussed what went wrong in these companies. Then, of course, we discussed about the Mundra scam also, which was the first scam in independent India, wherein the purchase of these LIC, investing in LIC or purchasing shares of LIC. That is how the finance minister, Mr. T.T. Krishnamachari, was to resign from his position. So this was the first major scam that has seen. And also we have we have enacted so many legislations, like the Indian Penal Code, Indian Contract Act, the Companies Act, Prevention of Corruption Act, Prevention of Money Laundering Act, Clause 49 of the Listing Agreement, and finally the Company Audits Report Order, that is CARO. So these are the legislations or the rules which are actually guiding or protecting or guiding the corporates to see that the compliances are made, and If anybody breaches, these are the provisions that get attracted. And also we discussed about the financial scandals in India also. I mean, you have the Colgate scam, then the 2G spectrum, Commonwealth Games, Telgi paper scam, then of course Satyam scam, which we discussed in detail, then Nirav Modi's PNB bank fraud, then Vijay Mallya's banking scam, Harshad Mehta and Ketan Parekh's share scam, Augusta Westland shopper scam, then Hawala and Bofors. So these are some of the financial scandals that have come into light and which have actually created a lot of impact, and also, I mean, some of the things have gone to the international levels wherein the reputation of the country was at stake. So we should not think that a scam is happening in a particular company, but if something goes wrong, the whole reputation of the nation is going to go down. Suppose, as I mentioned last time in the Satyam scam, after the Satyam scam, people started disbelieving the balance sheets being submitted by the Indian companies. Then they were insisting on getting this balance sheet registered by paying the stamp duties. So that has incurred a lot of losses to the companies, wherein, say, a company of 1,000 crores, if you want to actually register it, and you have to pay a huge amount of stamp duty. So that is how a thing that has occurred in a company is going to affect the other companies, and also it is affected the reputation of the nation also. Also, I mentioned why frauds occur. I mean, I discussed about a triangle that is called fraud triangle. So first of all, we have to see what are the opportunities to commit fraud in a company. That we should know.
Sir, you're on mute. I think somebody has muted you by mistake. If you could just unmute yourself. Yes, sir. So you're still not audible.
Okay. So I had to make it mute proof.
Yes, sir. It's working now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I was discussing about the fraud triangle. So if you want to make your company scandal proof, first of all, you should know where are the opportunities for the people to commit the fraud, and why people are feeling that they are free, they are feeling that they will not get caught. So your internal controls, is there any problem? And also general social acceptance is also there in the country. Ye sab kuch chalta hai. Because actually what people say is that people keep doing window dressing. When you want to submit your financials, finally people do much of window dressing, and then subsequently they correct it. So that is what is the general acceptance levels about this fraud. So if you want to make your company scandal proof, all these three things we need to tackle. You have to find out where are the loopholes or where are the opportunities to commit fraud, and why people in the corporate or in the company are feeling that, I mean, if they do something, they will not be caught. And also, as a corporate, you should have the responsibility to set the highest standards of compliances, so that the general acceptance among the people will not be there. And also, a company means, suppose if you name a particular company, people say that that particular company cannot commit a fraud. So that type of reputation, if all the companies are eager to develop, then these frauds can be avoided. I always say the people in the company are responsible. Maybe the top management. Generally, the top management give the these things, and the people down below, they start doing it. Even in the Satyam also, the top management said they can go ahead. So the accounts branch, they came together and formed a separate group, and they started generating so many false invoices, and they started introducing new software into the whole financial package. And they started developing, and they started manipulating or forging the bank statements and also the fixed deposit receipts, FDRs. So that is how the fraud has been perpetrated. So it is a collusion between the top management and also the people who are working in the accounts department and also the auditors. So that is the combination. Even the auditors also got convicted in that. So many people, ICAI and other people, started asking us how you can book auditors in that. Actually, we have clearly shown the culpability of the auditors in the whole this thing, because among the auditors team also, some of the junior people who are working in the team, they started bringing it to the notice of the main auditors that there is something wrong, because we are seeing some invoices which are not there in the actual invoices being submitted. There is some difference. So then they were stopped. They were muted, I can say, because somebody has muted me. So they were muted and they were not allowed to express this openly. So that is how the auditing team also became part of the team which has perpetrated the fraud. So if you want to see that the scandal proofing of your company, you have to see all these things together, because as investigators we are seeing that. Suppose if the company management itself, they find and they do it, then there is no necessity, or you need not come under scanner, as Mr. Kalyan Krishna has put up the slide, how you should not come under the scanning of CBI, ED or SFIO or other organizations. That is you yourself as a policeman. So that is self-policing. If the corporates can do it, then there is no need for an external agency to come and tell you what all you need to do. Because actually after this investigation of this scam, we were called to give suggestions to see that the Companies Act is amended. So as an investigators, we have been called. Actually, the Companies Act, if you want to amend, you should call all the corporate people and you should ask them what all amendments you need to make. Actually, what used to happen earlier is, suppose if you have fixed deposits, in the balance sheets, you are supposed to give the total figure. So the fixed deposits are, say, 2,000 crores. Now, what we suggested is, instead of showing it as a lump sum figure, you just split it. So in Axis Bank, how much FDRs I have? In HDFC, how much I have? In Bank of Baroda, how much I have? So all the companies will come to know how much the fixed deposits are there in each bank, so that they can also talk to the management and see that those FDRs are moved from one bank to the other. Otherwise, if it is given in a figure, as a bulk figure, as a total figure, then every bank is thinking that the deposits are there in the other bank. So this is the type of, these are some of the things we have suggested. And in fact, we have suggested to introduce a software, introduced a platform wherein something wrong is happening, immediately a red flag should come. Why somebody is putting so much of money in the current account? So that is another red flag which can come. Then the SFIO or the ROC, they can always raise an objection why you are putting, and they can actually get into the details about the investments. So these are some of the things, and also there are so many suggestions we made, so that a lot of things have come into the Companies Act also. So this thing is that all the corporates should sit together and see, because if one corporate commits a fraud, it is going to be a reflection on the other corporate also. So if you think India as a nation and all of us as together, so then such type of frauds, if you want to avoid, all of us should come together and we should discuss about this. And also there are a lot of organizational measures what we need to take if you want to avoid. That is what the scandal proofing. You need to create an ethical environment in the company. So that means everybody has to strive to see that the ethics of the company are maintained. So that is the responsibility of the corporate, the top level corporate. So that's why even in the other public sector companies also, a system called whistleblowing has been introduced, whistleblowers. So suppose I am working in an organization, I know that somebody is committing fraud. So generally people are afraid that their names will come out. So that's why they don't want to inform and they keep quiet. So the Central Vigilance Commission has started a system called the whistleblower policy. Suppose if you want to disclose any such sensitive information, you need to mention all these things, and on the envelope also you have to write this information is being shared under the whistleblowers scheme, so that after receipt this particular envelope goes to the Chief Vigilance Commissioner. He only is supposed to open it, and after opening he is supposed to see that the name of the person, the informer, is removed from there and a code name is given. So like that, some things also have been introduced. So creating an ethical environment is one of the important things. And second one is leading by example. The top management, they should lead by example. I mean, if top people, yada raja tada praja, we always say. That means how the top people, the people below are also going to do the same thing. So if you want to scandal-proof your company, the top management has to lead by example. And also you need to define the code of conduct. What is the code of conduct for the company? So if there is any violation or any breach of code of conduct, immediately some internal measures have to be taken. And if the code of conduct breach leads to any criminal offense, then they have to go ahead with the registration of the criminal offenses. So that is going to set the standard, set the code of conduct. I mean, it is not just for the record purpose or for compliance purpose. Actually, if somebody breaches this code of conduct, action is going to be taken against them. Then internal controls to detect fraud. That is also very important. Internal audit is very important. So actually, internal audit is done by your own people. So that's why I think, I mean, after Satyam thing, they have introduced what is known as an internal external audit. So it's going to be a combination of these people. That is how to control this fraud. So the internal audit team should be given all freedom, and also they should be able to tell the board of directors what exactly is happening. And if there is there any breach of this code, they should be allowed total freedom. In this Satyam case also, the internal audit team chief has been booked, and he was also part of the team which has perpetrated. So he did not disclose it to the board of governors, and despite knowing, he kept quiet. Then also you need to conduct a lot of training courses on ethical practices and for fraud prevention. This is one area where a lot of training courses happen in the companies on various subjects. So we need to hold training courses on ethical practices and fraud prevention also. Then identifying points of corruption and places of corruption and people. This is the exercise what CBI does with the public sector companies. All the public sector companies, they have what are known as the CVOs, Chief Vigilance Officers. The Chief Vigilance Officers and the CBI sit together and they will identify the points of corruption in a particular company and also places of corruption where it can go wrong. Suppose if you take Port Trust, lot of imports come. So during the weighing of these imports, lot of scandals take place. So we said that is place of corruption. Then the points of corruption. Then people who are having corrupt record. So all these records are maintained and it is effectively controlled. The points of corruption are checked. The places of corruption are seen, and people who are having a doubtful character, they will not be posted in a place where they can make money. That's why a lot of technological intervention also has started. Suppose if you see the income tax department, for example, earlier we used to file our income tax returns. We need to go to the income tax office and submit it. Now everything they made it online. Even if they want to scrutinize one of your one of the income tax assessee, the particular person need not go, or his even chartered accountant need not have to go. The systems are built so that the iterations are done, and finally this is what says, and the person who is affected is also going to submit his explanation online. So the point of contact is removed, and also the discretion is also removed. Once this man-to-man contact or contacting the people and the discretion is removed, then the scope for corruption is less. So the same thing, even in private companies also, the top management can do. They can undertake the process of identifying the points of fraud, identifying the possible places of fraud, and people with doubtful integrity. So that can be done. And also you need to have an assessment about the specific corruption risk of the business. So what are the possibilities that there may be a corruption? Because you may be a contract, you may be an infrastructure company. So there may be some people in your company who are going to bribe the people in the government for getting the contracts. And also there is a possibility that they may fudge the documents. Actually, I'll tell you one person who was doing this contracting business, huge contracts he used to take. Generally, the tender condition is that he should have minimum 250 crores in his account. So what this gentleman did is, he issued a check to his account, which is submitted to the thing, and he issued a check with 250 crores. Actually, the money is not there in the parent bank. But this particular account, check has reached the bank where this particular account is maintained, and from the suspense account, they have shifted money temporarily to this account, and to ensure that this man gets the eligibility. So that is how the bankers and also this person got into trouble. So like this, if there are any instances in which such specific corruption is possible in the company, if you can find out and if you can do something about it, then it can lead to scandal proofing. And this is the one thing you have to do. So actually, if you see the fraud prevention methods, first one is ethical values in the organization. So that's what I said. It should be top heavy. The people in the top management, they should have the ethical values, and then right person at the right place. This is also very important in any organization, maybe a government, maybe a private, maybe in any other field also. You need to have the right person in the right place, and then a reference check and verification. So you need to randomly take some checks and you have to verify, and then define policies and procedures you have to follow, and clear roles and responsibility. The clear roles and responsibilities of the people are also very important. Then internal controls, as I was mentioning, internal audit and all, they are also very important. And finally, transparency should be there in an organization. So if you incorporate all these things in an organization, then the chances of some scandal happening in your organization will be minimum. Even if something happens, you will be able to find out who are the people who are actually involved and who are the people who are actually perpetrating. So if these principles are applied to various scams that have happened, then you always see, a lot of emphasis is being given by maybe different governmental organizations, and also to increase the efforts to deter the wrongdoing. So there are a lot of things, lot of checks and controls, lot of new directions, lot of new instructions. And also there is a concept of zero tolerance of illegal behavior by the employees is also being practiced. So, but data indicates, but actually if you see, even after introduction of so many things, still the scams are increasing. If you open the newspaper, you find so many things happening around, despite having so many controls and so many restrictions. Like you have made stringent laws about the girls and the Nirbhaya Act and all we have brought, but still the crimes are increasing. So it is basically the people who are there in the organization that is very, very important. So if you can, because I always say India, the main this thing is the spirituality. Spirituality controls the nation. Spirituality is not, you have to make a distinction between religion and spirituality. Spirituality is what you do to the best of your ability, and you do it sincerely. You will not be committing what Mahatma Gandhi said about the 7 dangers. So they are all part of the spiritual guidance to all of us. So lack of spirituality is leading to a lot of such type of frauds. There are so many internal actors that are there, and also ineffective regulation and compliance systems. And also it is basically because of the weak leadership that is in the corporate culture, because main emphasis is given to your sales, and also whether you are giving a commitment and whether you are fulfilling the commitment. Like what Satyam Ramalinga Raju used to tell, next quarter our company will grow like this. So at the end of the quarter, he used to finally prove that they have achieved it, but nobody knew what was happening in the country. So lot of importance is being given to how your revenue is increasing, whether your sales are increasing. At the same time, the least attention is being given to the internal controls and the checks and balances. So if these things can be done, and also in many companies we see the people below, whenever something goes wrong, the top people go scot-free. Only the people down below, they are punished. Even if you read the book by How to Prevent Corruption in the Country by N. Vittal, he also says the same thing. In major things, you don't sacrifice a horse or sacrifice a elephant or sacrifice a tiger, but only a goat is sacrificed. In the same thing, if a scandal happens, it is not the top people who get punished or who get involved, but only it is they remove some of the lower level functionaries. That is also not correct. So all these things have been mentioning if you want to make your company scandal proof, And also, good leadership is very, very important, as I was mentioning. So the good leaders who are there, they broadcast a clear message that crime hurts everyone in the organization. So they should pass on these messages. And also, good leaders do not make exceptions when they punish perpetrators. So it is not whoever is involved, they should be punished. This is the type of this thing we need to take. So if you actually want to get into the scandal proofing of our company, if you want to actually scandal proof your company, what is required is that the active involvement of the top executives, and also filling up all these issues what I mentioned. So if you can do it, then you can do the scandal proofing, and also your intention to make your company scandal proof should be there. So if your emphasis is only on, it is like the school examinations also. If the school or the government is bothered about the passing of the examinations and maximum people getting through the examination, they allow everything to happen. They allow people to copy, they allow people whatever they want to do, and also the invigilators are also actively involved in the whole perpetration. Then, that is how the crowd that is coming out of the institutions, what we are seeing in the market. So in the same manner, if you want to scandal proof your organization, all the steps which have been mentioned, they need to be followed, and you need to set a standard. So I think this is how I feel you need to scandal proof your company. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Very, very, very much valuable inputs. Now, what I'd like to do is, what are the theoretical examples that you have set? Of course, we have learned it practically the last time, because you've shown it by way of presentation. Now, I'd like to take everybody through a particular report that we have conducted, a particular risk audit that we have conducted on a corporate multinational company, and the result of it, how it has helped the company. Okay, so before I commence, I'd like to present the particular report. So this forms the part of stage 2, that is how we do a risk audit report. Just a moment. Yeah. So this particular report, I have also shared a link of it in the chat box. You can open that. So what we do is we try to cover about 16 assignments, out of which I'm only displaying here 16 assignments. I'm sorry, 13 assignments. What we do is we first check the corporate compliance and key management. Second is the statutory licenses and registrations. Third is intellectual property compliances. Fourth, human resources, employee benefits and labor compliances. Fifth, insurances. Sixth, contracts and agreements. Seventh, lawsuits, notices and legal compliances. Eighth, cyber, IT, software compliances. Ninth, properties, movable and immovable. 10th, major account payable and receivables. 11th, arbitration and ADR procedures. 12th, registrar of companies and secretarial compliances. 13th, secretarial governance review. Additionally, the 14th, what we do is we check the indirect and direct taxation review, and followed by the statutory audit. And the 16th, subject to the corporate profile, if there are any other compliance checks to be done, we do that. So predominantly, these are the assignments we do. So these are nothing but whatever Lakshminarayan sir tried to address, that these are independent risk audits, that it is done by a combination of internal and external team members for the benefit of the corporate. So I'd like to take you through the example of it, how exactly we do, what contains in each. If I have to take you through the 113 pages we have it here, it'll take quite a lot of time. So I'll try to keep it as short as possible. Say, for example, assignment number 1. Okay, this is a sample audit report. What we do is, say, for example, we check the corporate summary of it. Okay, and then the subscribers, and then the directors and key management persons. Okay. So we have set something called governing committees. So sir was telling the key management, the top management should set the example. So this could be one of it. So we say you have the committees established in the form of a master committee and in the form of a particular committee for every department. It could be legal, dispute resolution, prevention of sexual harassment, or your cyber and IT committee, or your policy and guideline framing committee. So these are few examples here. And a particular company, when we try to audit, it says non-compliant if you see here this report. Similarly, the second one, yeah, say for example, we have something called compliance trainings. So this particular corporate, when we did the audit, it was non-compliant. Statutory licenses and registrations. We check if the corporate has all the licenses and statutories in place. If not, we let them know. Okay. Similarly, let me take you through a very important thing called, say I'm taking you through intellectual property. Okay. Intellectual property, we say we check the trademarks, copyrights, industrial designs, patents, for example. So here, this company, it has everything non-compliant. So we give the report accordingly. And then comes the key one: employee resources and human resources and employee benefits. We check the profile or the file of every employee. Okay, you see here: employee code, employee name, employee type, location, status, joining date, department designation, offer letter number, offer letter date. Okay, medical examination status, and then the number of pages of the particular offer letter. Okay, so every employee is tracked here. Moving on, apart from the employees, and then we come to the company HR policies, if they have a code of conduct. Okay, and every policy is checked. You see here, every policy is checked. Employee travel policy, domestic travel policy, example. Okay, and say fifth one, protection of women from sexual harassment policy. Do they have a policy? Example. Okay, this is with respect to the human resources. Next, moving on to very critical and important one. That is, you see here, we also check the provident fund details. The PF that is paid. Okay, serial number, month, year, total number of employees, total number of paid employees, number of pending employees, date of payment, amount paid, nominee, KYC, transaction ID, everything is tracked here. Then professional tax, similarly. Okay, and then your labor compliance registers, your muster roll, okay, and all other registers. Now comes insurances. If you see here, careful attention, every group insurance and individual insurance is tracked. Say, for example, do they have a fire insurance? Okay, office building insurance. Okay, validity of it. Okay, marine insurance, if the company is related to business with marine, burglary. Okay, and then indemnity. So various insurances like this. Now, who are the people covered? Employee ID. So this is the kind of detailing we do. Okay, with respect to each department. And most importantly, the next one, you see this, contracts and agreements. We check every contract of the company, and most importantly, every clause of every contract. Every clause of every contract. And then we say whether it is compliant or not. So like this, we have various departments. Okay. What we do is we engage various professionals. Say, for example, when it comes to tax, we engage chartered accountants. When it comes to register of company matters, or you can say secretarial matters, we take in well-established company secretaries. Something to do with intelligence and investigations, we take in professionals from CBI, or we take the services of CBI or retired enforcement directorate or SFI or income tax department professionals. So that is stage 2. Intelligence and investigations is stage 2. subject to or assessment based on this risk audit. I hope you're clear about this risk audit. If you want me to glance through it once again, here I've shown you the 13 assignments. Okay, so each assignment, once it is done, it will give a particular score and the audit report and opinion. Say, for example, I've clicked on it. Here it shows, sir was referring to whistleblower thing. So, for example, here, when it comes to corporate compliance and management, this company, whistleblower protection training, it doesn't have one. Legal committee, it doesn't have. Protection of sexual harassment at workplace training, they haven't conducted. Human resources protection training, they have not conducted. Policy and guideline framing committee, it's not there. Cyber IT committee, it's not there. Protection from cyber IT, protection from cyber terrorism training, they have not. Private limited company related compliances, they have met. Committee for preventing sexual harassment at workplace, they have it. That is the reason we have given them a score of 2. So if they are compliant, we give them a score of 2. If they are non-compliant, we give them a score of 0. If they are partially compliant, we give them a score of 1. Okay. So each department like this, every document we check, okay, we give them a score. So it's all a software-driven process. Okay. First, manually people check it and they enter the details into the software, and the software gives a score, and it also tells which is a particular department that lacks compliance, and most importantly, which is a particular section in that department. So they go and try to fix it. So we also give a detailed report of every particular document that we have checked. If you see here carefully, this particular contracts and agreements, I'm trying to refer to something called lease agreement. It says compliant, the document validity, a particular date, and the score of it. Okay, so this is the level of tracking we do. Okay, in the end, it also gives, say, for example, who are the you can say experts who have done it. Say, for example, most of it for this one, it was done by a particular affiliate of ours, a law firm, who has done all this. The first 11 assignments, the 12 and 13th was done by a different affiliate of ours, that is something related to secretarial. Now, what we do is, this is the stage of risk audit. After the risk audit is done, okay, after the risk audit is done, then we sit with the corporate, we tell them what are the loopholes or the non-compliances. We check if the non-compliance is because of ignorance or because of deliberacy. Okay. Based on that, we come to a conclusion if there is a intelligence team required and some investigations are required. Based on the level of threat that is diagnosed based on this risk audit, okay, we suggest few you can say external experts. It could be from the Department of SFI, or it could be department from Department of Enforcement Directorate, or CBI from Income Tax, or a chartered accountant, or a company secretary, or an advocate, something. It depends upon the nature of nature of the non-compliance or the wrong that has happened, okay, or the problem that is diagnosed. So stage 1, what we do is, first we identify the corporate profile. Say, for example, if this corporate is into say freight forwarding, or something to do with transportations, logistics, or if it is a software company, okay, we identify and we set the strategy of risk audit. Okay, if it is a logistics company, the strategy is completely different. If it is a software company, it is completely different. If it is an infrastructure company, the strategy is completely different. Okay, then what we do is we adopt the risk audit process. So that is stage 2. Stage 3, what we do is intelligence and investigations. Intelligence and investigations, it depends upon the particular department. So if it is something to do with, say, for example, insurances, who would be a better person to diagnose the problem related to insurances? So we call in the insurance experts. Something to do with corporate governance. we call in the company secretary or the CFO of that company or the CEO of that company, and external people. And if it has got something to do with arbitration procedures or something to do with litigation before the courts, then we take the help of, say, senior advocates. So this is a process that we have developed where in stage one we identify the corporate, okay, and then stage two we do the risk audit process. Based on the result of it, we employ or we adopt the process of investigating the problem. Okay, we check if it is because of a deliberate attempt or because if it is because of ignorance by someone, and we also give them a report at what stage is it. Is it in advanced problematic stage, or is it about to begin, about to sprout, and most importantly at which level of management is it. Is it at top level or at the mid management level or the lower level? So the expertise of Lakshminarayan sir, why we hired him here is, part one, he has categorically explained as what is the level of investigation he has done. In this part, he has explained that self-policing is very, very important. So first, what you do is you have every corporate has to adopt self-policing practices, and then bring in independent, okay, or third-party risk management and scandal management, okay, scandal proofing experts. Okay, for somebody to come and identify the problems, somebody should have given a diagnosis report. So if a doctor has to fix the problem, somebody has to give the diagnosis report. So this is the two-stage, or you can say a four-stage methodology we do. So first we check the patient, we take his name, the details, and we identify whether what kind of diagnosis he has to undergo, and then we do the diagnosis. Based on the diagnosis, we give it to the doctor. The doctor's team will identify what kind of operation has to be done, okay, and they do it. After the operation is done, or maybe if it is a pre-operation, if it can be stopped at a pre-operation level itself, this expert team of doctors will decide. And finally, they'll plan the resolution. Okay, they say this is the course you need to take for the next 6 months or 3 months or so on. So if the problem is very, very advanced, then they'll say it needs a major operation. This is how you need to undergo. These are the team of doctors who will do it. After the operation is done, you'll be hale and healthy. You can go ahead. Or if it is a tumor that you can't remove no matter what, then we'll have to see what are the procedures we'll have to adopt to minimize or control the damage. Now the summary of it is, there is no corporate that is immune to scandals. You name the company, okay, it's like anybody's body. No body is immune to any disease. So every one of us will have one or the other disease. Now what we need to do is, how do we become fit and healthy? So for that, what has to be done? So at any given stage, what we need to do, we have to go visit a doctor and then get our health report, okay, diagnosis report. From there, we have to work accordingly. Similarly, this can be a health scanning report to a company. So we scan the company, we identify the damage or the diagnosis, we diagnose whatever is there, and then we give them a particular prescription to be followed. Okay. Now, in this discussion, as I said, no company is immune to scandals. Okay. The best we can do is adopt those procedures which can help the company, okay, minimize major risks. The tradition that is followed in India is, very few corporates which are say at a net profit of 500 crores and above or 1000 crores and above, of late there is some fanciful, you can say a fanciful tradition that is started by few other corporates also. What they do is, for the sake of it, they go and take a few risk audit services from some consulting services. Last time, Lakshminarayan sir has clearly demonstrated as Satyam had the best consulting service provider, but still they had the risk audit procedures, they had everything, but they couldn't stop the scandal because it was deliberate. So do we say that the consultant was also a part of it? we can't literally, at least I wouldn't, because I'm not the investigation officer. Sir knows it better. I wouldn't say. Sir has also told some chartered accountants were caught in the process. Now, do we say the gold standard consulting service providers, they are doing everything right? Number two, in India, if you see, behind every scandal, there is a gold standard consulting service provider. They have the top experts. It could be lawyers, it could be chartered accountants, it could be the best CFOs. But do you think the scandals are being prevented? That is a core problem. What we are trying to do is, your deliberacy is a second point. So if the top management is deliberately doing a fraud, then there's no concept of scandal proofing as such. But if the top management has invested heavy monies, it could be a foreign direct investment that is come in, or the local investment that is come in. If the CEO or the investors or the shareholders, what they do is they invest their monies in the company, and they leave it to the top level management and the second level management to handle it. Okay, handle the operations, everything. They would be expecting the company to do well. But if there are leakages at various levels, it could be by way of ignorance, let's say, then these services called corporate scandal proofing services can be of great help. Second, if there is any deliberacy at various level, okay, that can be diagnosed and based on the reports, that could be investigated and prevented. So the reason I refer to gold standard consulting services is, if you're going for gold standard consulting services, the so-called companies, you please do so by auditing your auditor, okay, judging your lawyer, or all the senior most professionals who are deployed with that particular exercise of preventing the risks. Okay, or if you're going to get that particular service to impress your investors, it is like you're trying to cover your mistakes, and maybe you're not addressing the root cause of the problem. So my submission here is, if the corporate has to be hale and healthy, and the interest of the shareholders and the investors and the top management has to be secured, you have to make sure ignorance and deliberacy at various levels has to be stopped. So how do you do it? You form a team of people who can police it internally and bring in external people also. So at every year, you have this process of corporate scandal proofing. It's like your health checkup that you do it year on year. So you don't stop because you're healthy this year, you don't stop it the next year. So you deploy the best people. And if your intention is to do business, grow, be transparent, be qualitative, be a model to everybody, be a example to the other corporates, then what you need to do is adopt those procedures which are in line or in sync with your business. Second, bring in these corporate scandal proofing or risk audit measures, okay, depending upon the corporate profile. If you're a startup or a mid-level company, you have your risk audit procedures in place, and take advices from others. If you are a big company, I would say maybe in India, I would say we are proud to at least introduce the concept and the procedure or the solution of corporate scandal proofing. In other countries, there are few consultants who have started this. In India, we are the first ones to begin this. For me to come up with this procedure of corporate scandal proofing, I had to spend about 3 to 4 years with various people, various experts. I knew why, the reason I had asked Lakshminarayan sir to be a part of this, because his experience, especially, I think most of you were part of the previous webinar. That particular experience, it has kind of motivated me, and it changed my diagnosis theory, whatever I've developed completely. Now I wanted to be, I'd like to be more advanced than what sir has already delivered. But for me to implement this, I'm taking assistance of so many experts like this. So what I'm trying to, the summary of it again, the bottom line of it again is, the corporates if they are failing for reasons which are unknown to them, then these services can help them to greater extent. Okay. For those who are deliberately doing it, and we don't have to talk about it, there's no scandal proofing or no solution that can help them. At this point, this is something that we have developed. Okay, our risk audit procedures, whatever we have done, that have given good results, and I'd like to share uh, in the chat box one of the companies that the testimonial we have received. I'm just sharing the link of it. You can later on view it. Okay. So coming back to the topic, I have explained about the risk audit procedure and also the risk audit procedure and also the process of intelligence and investigations. I'd like to request Lakshminarayan sir to summarize this in his own way, because he's the expert who has already delivered the investigations, the intelligence and investigations. Since we are at 5:10 already, okay, we'll try to do it in 5 to 10 minutes or at the max. Once we listen to sir. Okay, stage 3 of it is intelligence and investigations, which sir will summarize. Stage 4 is diagnosing and troubleshooting it. It could be at the pre-diagnosis level or post-diagnosis level. Okay, pre-dispute level or post-dispute dispute level. Sorry. So I'll hand it over to. I'll pass it over to Lakshminarayan sir. Sir, you please continue.
Yeah. Actually, Mr. Kalyan Krishna, you have almost covered the whole this thing about this intelligence and investigation, because these are the two agencies which are were deployed even in the government also. Because whenever you want to make a decision, you need to have a good intelligence. I mean, it may not be possible for you within the organization to know what the external market is and how the market dynamics are changing and how the decision making has to be done. So generally what corporates does is they have their own business internal intelligence team, and also they try to engage some external agencies also to see how because major decisions that they have to make, say for example, a particular acquisition of a company, say for example, you want to do. So you need to have a lot of intelligence inputs from because your internal corporate intelligence may not be sufficient to do it. So you try to engage somebody. And also the second thing is the investigation part of it. As we were mentioning, forensic accounting is one of the important things that many of the corporates are now engaging. They have developed a lot of tools in the corporate, the financial, accounting platforms have been developed. And also a lot of companies also have come up and they are offering their services for both intelligence as well as the investigation also. So both these things are very important, because whenever for a decision making, even government also, if they want to introduce any new scheme, what they do is they ask the intelligence agencies to go and do a survey and find out what the general pulse of the people and how this scheme is going to be there and how it is going to benefit people, what political backlashes it is going to give. All these things are done by the intelligence agencies. Similarly, for a corporate also, if they want to expand or they are entering into a new country in a new field, so what they do is they do this intelligence collection. So similarly, the companies also, they are required to have these investigating units, what you have mentioned in your this thing. It's like almost an internal audit type of thing. The documents what you have shown is a part of that only. I mean, to see how best the fraud can be avoided. And if you have the internal checks and if you have an investigation team which has an investigation background, it will be much better for the organization to see. And also, I mean, instead of allowing the fraud to get perpetrated and then subsequently to manipulate, it is better to take a prevention. So prevention is always better. That's why these investigation teams, they keep on going. I mean, if you take the public sector undertakings, they are called the vigilance teams. So the vigilance teams, they keep moving around and they will try to get a lot of inputs from the things. Or if it is a manufacturing company, they will pick up samples randomly and they will try to subject them to quality control, all these things. So ultimately, the goal is the reputation of the organization should be there. And also for the decision making, you need to have better inputs. So that's why we always, emphasize on the concept of multidisciplinary things. So, the company or the corporate may not be having all the expertise. So what they do is they may have internally these people from multidisciplines, or they may engage people from outside from various disciplines, so that your assessment will be proper. Like again, I refer to Satyam case because the whole investigation was given to us. Our job is to see the balance sheets and fudging where it has been done, because we had a course, because I am an engineer. We had a course on accountancy and this thing in one of our semesters. So wherein our main this thing was to see that liabilities and assets should match. That is what is the accountancy taught to me. So now, keeping a balance sheet in front of me and to find out where exactly the fraud happened, it would have taken 3-4 years for us to find out. So what we did is we roped in the multidisciplinary people. We roped in some chartered accountants. We roped in some cost accountants. We roped in some bankers. So we roped in some cyber forensic experts. So all these people put together, we started discussing. So each one of them started giving the input. So the chartered accountant said, sir, this is the problem. So why so much of money is there in the current account? So why these fixed deposits these are the issues? So we could gather the information so well, and we could complete the investigation in 43 days. So that is the advantage of having the multidisciplinary teams. Even if you see the United Nations Convention on Anti-Corruption, it also talks about engaging or involving multidisciplinary teams. So as you mentioned, for the health of the organization, it's like you said, no, you go to various diagnostic centers and you take blood sample, you take X-ray, you take chest scan, all these things put together, then you analyze. In the same manner, if you can have the people who can give intelligence for decision making and who can have the investigation teams to find out what exactly is happening in the company, a combination of these two things will definitely make the company more confident, and also they will feel that they will introduce a lot of preventive methods. So my advice to all the corporate is to have both the units, to have an intelligence unit as well as an investigation unit, depending on the size of the company, and also depending on the size, how many people you want to rope in. So that is finally to take care who are the people who are likely to commit fraud, because these intelligence people keep you giving also. They keep track of the people, what they are doing, and whether the information is being leaked. All these things will be checked, and it will act as a countermeasure also if somebody wants to perpetrate the fraud on the organization. Because even though the top management may be good, their ethics may be wonderful, but there may be some people in the organization who want to make use of this or exploit it. So wherein this type of intelligence and investigation units are going to help the top management in controlling it, preventing it, and to give proper guidance to the board of directors also. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot for those valuable inputs, sir. We'll now take questions from the participants. Should you have any questions, you can shoot now.
Hello.
Yes,
sir,
please.
my name is Bharat Singh. I have a question. Like the Satyam was a case, and we have so many multinational companies in India, and they are doing the money laundering. Like the invoice is real, but they are transferring money from the one big company to so many small company, like India Bull Housing Finance, one of the example.
Yeah.
So how we can identify these companies, like they are making so much real invoice, but the money is going to the sell company, and at the end the company after 5-7 years collapse.
Yeah. Can I answer, Mr. Kalyan? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, these shell companies are a biggest problem. When we were investigating another case, we had visited Kolkata. Kolkata, there is a building in which there are about 5,000 offices located. I mean, if you go and give a check for 1 lakh, maybe in 20 days time, they will see that 90,000 rupees is deposited in your account. You give 1 lakh cash and 90,000 rupees come to your account. So 10,000 is their commission. So there are so many such companies existing in Kolkata. And now what they do is they issue a check from their unit. and it goes to the next company, it goes to the third company. So they make about 20 iterations. 20 iterations from one company to the other company. The instrument keeps on moving. So from check is issued, it is deposited here. Then another check is issued by this company, it goes to the third company, like that 20 iterations. So why they are doing this? When we inquired, they said generally the income tax department, when they track all these things, they go only up to 6 iterations. After 6 iterations, they leave. So that's why now they have fixed it as 20. So who are the directors of these companies? The chowkidars, the watchman, the driver, all the offices. It has one table, one chair, and one watchman. So he is director in 20 companies. So like that, they rotate among themselves and they do what is known as this hawala or this money laundering. What they do. So this is another big problem that we have, and also many people are involved to get this money laundered in this through this fashion. It's a big menace, actually. In fact, we asked the ED and other people also to raid these places. Income tax also, we inform them that such a thing is happening. Also, it is known, but things are still happening. Shell companies, we keep reading. We keep reading about these shell companies, or from abroad, if you want to get, you get in the form of participatory notes. So there are so many ways of getting this money into this thing. When we visited Mauritius also for this, Mauritius thrives on this. Mauritius thrives on these shell companies. If you go to Virgin Islands, this is the problem, the man of oil. So the economies are operating all those, and they are called the tax havens. So this is a big problem. It's an international issue where the I think FATA, the Financial Fraud Tracking Agency or something like that, they keep doing this type of business. And also getting information also for the investigations, it is becoming very difficult, because whenever you want to get information from the other countries, we have to approach the other country in the form of letter rogatories. It is not that easy to get the information. You have to go through Interpol. So there are a lot of complications which are getting slowly minimized so that the information can be directly shared. Of course, the shell company business is there not only in the country, but also in the international level also. It's a big challenge for the investigators. But of late, with this convention against terrorism, this information is getting shared between different countries, so that it is becoming easier to have an access. And also there is a unit called FIU, that is Financial Intelligence Unit in the nation. They also track all the fraudulent transactions. I think any transaction be above 10 lakhs in your bank accounts also, generally a message goes to the FIU and they keep verifying the various accounts. So this is how it's a big problem, and also it's a challenge. And slowly the departments are taking their own measures to see this shell company business is reduced, and the generation of black money is also controlled. Yeah.
Next question, please.
Hello, sir. This is Ranjit Rajput from Jaipur again, and I'm just waiting to get respond from Lakshmi sir.
I am waiting for your WhatsApp message. You promised me, but it did not reach me. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll do one thing. I'll forward you the message again. Not an issue.
Please,
sure, sir. Sure. Today itself we'll get it. Yeah.
I reinstalled my WhatsApp. I think you might have sent it. Must have gone. So kindly send it.
Okay.
Also, Chandigarh people, they were busy in this protests against these agricultural bills also.
Right, sir. Right. No issue, sir. I'll forward it to today itself. You'll get. Thank you, sir. Thanks.
Any other question, please?
Yeah, hello. So this is Ashwini. I was just going through the report which you shared on
the chat, yes.
Audit report.
Mm-hmm.
And the sexual harassment policy, you are saying that the company is compliant, but I guess it's not compliant because I don't see any, third-party member details.
Okay, two things here. That is a sample audit report.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. There might be, it's only for assumptive purposes what we have taken. To answer your question, sexual harassment, according to the Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act, The internal compliance committee has to be established. Training has to be delivered. Okay, and an external member has to be present. So
Right.
that particular committee has to be established, and in the director's report also that has to be mentioned.
Right.
Only then it becomes compliant.
Okay.
So that report, what I have shared there, it is assumptive purposes to tell you or to show you how our audit report, audit procedure works. What are the departments, what are the various categories we check.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Sir, am I audible? Can I come in? Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir, surely, please.
Sir, I'm Rajesh Wadhwa. I'm a very fresh, new entrepreneur. And I just want to know, sir, after all this, that we are loaded with so much of knowledge and experience having been so many places, can you say with some confidence that, like in airports, you've got a near miss, something is just about to going wrong, somebody reports. So, how many these whistleblowers have come up to prevent nearly what would have been another Satyam case? Can you say with confidence that things have actually got prevented with all the knowledge that we have gained? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, most of the things which are prevented are generally not known. Actually, things which precipitate are also known. So that's why, especially when in working in police, we prevent so many things, but it is not taken note of. But when something goes wrong, then only the things get analyzed. So the main this thing is the corporates. What I was mentioning, if you want to make it as a scandal proof, the management should allow this whistleblower thing, the policy to be there in the this thing. That is more important. As Mr. Rajesh Wadhwa, you said you are the entrepreneur who has just entered into this thing. So your particular team should know that if there is somebody is planning to do something wrong, or you always should have the transparency or somebody to approach you. Cannot be directly, but maybe through this whistleblower concept, or you can design your own way of having this whistleblowing policy in your organization, so that everybody is under tenterhooks. Because if I am doing something wrong, there is a possibility that somebody may report. So this we are doing in a positive way. It is not that so that something before itself you will come to know, and so that you can take the remedial measures. So that's a positive thing that has happened. And of course, with the Central Vigilance Commission also, lot of information has come now. The Right to Information Act was also there for all the government offices, wherein lot of decision making is being done properly, because all the files you can call for as an information. So the man who is making an entry in that file is responsible for making an entry. So all these things are to make the people more accountable. That is what is being done. Whistleblower policy, RTI, or various things that we are encouraging in the government also. That is to bring in more transparency and also more accountability. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Sir, I am Sanjay Lalit. I am calling from Mumbai. Just with your permission, can I ask some maybe question on the subject?
Please.
Okay. My name is Sanjay Lalit. I am a corporate lawyer in Mumbai. Just with your maybe kind permission, lot of big fraud which happen in the country, they happen with the connivance of the sports system, from the democracy, from the politicians, from the bureaucrats. So we can't say, even if you did the study of Satyam scam, because I did some study long back on this subject. Even I have written one article on this. In India needs whistleblowers in all the industries. This article is published in the Charter Secretary long back. So I feel no big scam, no big scandal can happen without the support of the politicians or the bureaucrats. So whatever happen, we people just do normally a post-mortem and give our report. And again, after 1 year, 2 years, same thing happen. This is happening, I think, in the country. I'm seeing, because my age is 57, I'm seeing for the last 30 years, this keep on happening. Some scam will happen after 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. So I think there is not a political will in the system. And unless and until we have a political will, or maybe will of all the businessmen, corporates, so we can't maybe stop this scandal. This is my view. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I mentioned that spirituality which guides the nation. So when we go beyond, away from the spirituality, the frauds are going to happen. There is no doubt about it. I mean, the greed is the main factor which influences the individuals and which make them to commit the fraud. That's what you see in several scams that have happened in this.
Yeah. Even in Satyam, in Satyam,
Yeah.
one political party was responsible for that scam. But we can't speak, because I can't speak on this maybe platform. Who is the politician? Who is responsible? No scandal has happened without the support of political party.
Yeah, because I mean, the type of people who are we are electing into the system also, we also need to question ourselves as voters. So because I contested in elections, I contested in 2019, I got about 3 lakh votes. That's
Okay,
what the first election. People want change, but definitely you see, we need to have change the mindset of the people also now. The caste politics, the money politics, they are all playing because everybody is investing a lot of money into this thing. So whenever they get elected, they try to get back this money with interest or with so many times.
Right,
So,
you're right. Right.
yeah.
I think we know initially Rajiv Gandhi in 1984 was a very honest person, but within 3 years he was compelled to become dishonest within 3 years.
So that's why this money is this thing, no? That money is a big factor. So that's why I said the concept of spirituality has to be there to control the behavior of a human being. And also, as I mentioned, if you want to clean the system, you have to start from the top. That's
Yes,
why
you're right. Right.
the Supreme Court has recently taken a decision in attending to this. I think Indian, public organizations. This thing, all the cases against the politicians, it should be completed within 1 year. All the pending cases. There are about 4,000. There are about 4,232 cases pending against the politicians. So and also getting stays. They are getting stayed by various courts, and they are completing their political tenures. They are getting re-elected. So all these things are happening. I mean, somewhere a full stop has to be put. Let's hope for the quicker disposal of these cases, so that there will be a semblance of propriety and semblance of commitment to the nation. Yeah.
So you are 100%. Even I have seen a lot of liquidation in the last 40 years. Some liquidation has taken 40 years. Then how you can do the postmortem? Because if you see in 1980, 1985, the company like Maruti Limited, which was controlled by Sanjay Gandhi, their liquidation process took more than 30 years. People are coming, people are doing a scandal, then they are dying. Then who will be responsible for that scandal?
Yeah, that's why the whole system, because if you see, the main litigant in this nation is the government.
Right. Yeah.
That's a big problem. The main litigant is the government, because government kuch nahi jata hai, because it's a public money.
Yeah.
You engage the best lawyers and keep on fighting.
Right.
The process is getting protracted. So that's somewhere we have to stop it, and you should go for a quick disposal of the cases. Yeah.
But unfortunately, in the country, maximum people are religious, but they are not spiritual.
Yeah, that is the problem.
Yeah, people are religious, but they are not spiritual. Yeah.
वो बालाजी को जाता है, दर्शन करता है, दूसरा दिन आके टेबल के नीचे से पैसे लेता है.
Yeah. All people are politicians. They are democratic. They are religious, but they are not spiritual. Yeah.
Yes, we need to get into the spirituality. Not the religious is okay, but the spirituality is more important.
Yeah. So you are advocate? Yeah, you are a CA.
Myself, I was in the Indian Police Service, and I took voluntary retirement. I was in the Maharashtra cadre. I served for 28 years, and I took voluntary retirement, and now I am in the public life. Yes.
Okay. If you permit, can I speak to you sometime, maybe after a week or so, sometime?
Yeah, sure. You can have my number from Mr. Kalyan, and you can speak to me. No problem. Yes.
Okay. Because I just maybe came to the system just maybe last week only. I got a mail from Prachi. That's the reason maybe I am in this webinar.
Keep visiting. Also, we can meet. I keep visiting.
Sir is ex-joint director of Central Bureau of Investigation.
Even in the last 5 years in my career, I have reported 4 or 5 scams to the SEBI and to the SFIO. Still, no action has been taken. I have reported 5, 6 maybe scandal to the SFIO and SEBI. Because of political reason, the government is not taking any action.
We can work that in a different way after the call. Maybe you can call sir.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll give the number. We'll discuss it once again.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, please?
Sir, if the government is bring the transparency on the acts, rules. This all scandal, all things can be prevent. One of the parliament session, our prime minister itself is a tax terrorism. I think this has been made by the either authorities or government, that no leading to the common man, like no whoever running the business, they are not showing the interest in the business, running the business in India. They want to go out. As a honest businessman wants to run the any business in India, there are so many tax people, tax department harassment. So how to prevent those harassments to for honest honest entrepreneurs?
You should have honest public servants. That is the some of the substance. Because I mean, you need to get honesty introduced into the whole this thing. That's why in the civil services examination also they have included a paper called Ethics and Morals. So they felt that is lacking, and so they have introduced that. So there is a lot of now the concept of karma yogi that has been started by the DOPT recently. So how to train these civil servants and all, how to bring the concepts of honesty and integrity into them. These are all the measures that are being made, but the material made in the by the material in that man is also very important. What type of material he is, that makes a lot of difference. Otherwise, the temptations are very high, because the stakes are very high in this these transactions. People are there to offer, I mean, so much of money, wherein the temptations are so high, and I mean, people tend to become corrupt. So this is where we have to attack the basic input. That's why there is a proposition that whenever you get people into civil services, you need to do their psychoanalysis also. What type of people? Because there are so much of tools that have come. You should see how this gentleman or the public servant is going to behave. I agree. Corruption is the biggest problem in this nation. There is no doubt about it. Corruption is more harmful than the terrorism in our nation. So we need to have, as I mentioned, if you want to have clarity and this thing, integrity in the system, it should start from the top. That's why when I was answering Mr. Sanjay Lalit also, I was mentioning the quick disposal of the cases against the politicians that is going to set the trend right. So that is going to be one of the efforts. And also all this Central Vigilance Commission and these whistleblowers and all these are various measures that are being taken. Let us hope for the best. Let us hope for the best that the harassment and this corruption will reduce in the nation. Yeah.
One more thing in India, judicially decisions takes years, one life, like 20 years, 30 years. This is actually creates a lot of problem. As a common man running the business, he cannot run around the courts.
That is true.
So there actually is no attempt to offer bribes and these all things will happen. If the judicial decision is a fast track basis now, so the man can concentrate on the business and the economy will grow.
100% you are correct. I mean, the decisions, but the number of cases and then the infrastructure and the number of courts, I mean, you all know what is the position. And also the government being the biggest litigant, that is also a problem in this country. You should have quick disposal. There is no doubt about it. Actually, there should not be disputes. And the dispute resolution also has to be faster. Otherwise, this is a too long game, this thing taking 30 years, 38 years to settle a case. This is on a very higher side. So somewhere some measures have to be taken, no doubt about it.
One of my own case, 2009, it was the litigant. It's in a tribunal. Still, single hearing is not happening.
Yeah, that is true. The procedure also has to change. Our procedures also have to change, because if you remember, there is a Malimat Commission has been appointed. Malimat Commission, the retired High Court judge of Karnataka. Malimat Commission has they have submitted a detailed report to how to bring changes in the criminal justice system, but somehow it is not coming into the fore. Yeah. So let us hope for the best. Let us hope for the best. Let us not lose the this thing hope, and some days are going to come and some changes are going to come. Let us do our bit and let us hope for the best. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Right, Kalyan, can you close this because I have another webinar to go? Yeah.
Oh, sure, sir. Sure, sir. Thanks a lot for your.
If there are no questions, then
If there are any, I'll answer. If in case if there is any, if you would like to answer, are there any other questions, please? We are winding up. If there are any questions,
all right. I think.
all right, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd like to thank Lakshminarayan sir for his presence here. It made a lot of difference. Of course, expertise speaks on its own. So if there are any future webinars coming up, we'll keep you notified. Okay. Thanks for everyone's present today for your time.
Yeah.
Sincere
Thank you.
thanks to Lakshminarayan sir once again. Thank you, sir.